in country, it might be closer, like somewhere between 27 and 28 days, full days in country, if I do 28 nights in Ireland. And I love that in the grander scheme of things, so not just zoomed in on Ireland, but zoomed out and looking at my entire heritage trip travel trip series. I love that because then I have two brackets. I have my lower limit and my upper limit. And so I will have a feel for what is a shorter trip, like the Scotland. What does a approximately 2 week long trip feel like? And what does a 4 week long trip feel like? And then I can look at countries like Germany, where there's a whole lot of German on my dad's side of the family. And it's like all spread out through regions. And so it's kind of like, and Germany is big, especially in comparison, like, that I'm recalling to like Scotland and Ireland. And so I'm like, okay, and maybe that's not the best example. Maybe the United States of America is a much better, how the heck am I going to travel around the United States of America in 2 to 4 weeks for my heritage travel? That's just, I would guess it'd be on the longer end of trips, but I definitely don't want to go into the United States of America trip with like no longer trip length. So it's a very, and Ireland is on a number of these trips, like England, I'll be stressed by big city, London, United States of America, just the vastness, and then Germany, Poland, Italy, and Norway, the language will be more of a stressor. So that leaves just one trip, Ireland, for testing out trip lengths and using and kind of making that the stressor is, can I make a longer trip work? That was kind of a stressor maybe for my Scotland trip, was, can I make it in this amount of time? And the benefit of not having an income and not having a job is I don't have to be like, I only get 2 weeks of vacation a year. I can be like, no, I can actually take this 28 nights and do this trip. And so, and like in the past when I've had jobs, a month off is enough to start to raise eyebrows with an employer. And so like that's just something I didn't do. Like I had summer jobs where they would purposefully kind of hire more people to account for vacation time, but a month chunk is a long time for an employer. And at that point, I start reflecting and being like, well, should I even apply for this job kind of in the first place? And there's a bit of, if you've been working there for a few years, okay. But talk to the employer. And then when I moved to South Africa, and that my student visa was January to June 2012, I left my job. I did not take a leave of absence because that's just, I don't know, to me, if I were an employer, that would come across as disrespectful. Like, especially since the place I was working, jobs, I suppose not so much if jobs in your field or whatever your profession are not competitive, but I had a very competitive position. And so it's just kind of like, and they need someone to, like, I'm not gonna kind of do that to them and then just come back and be like, I want my job back. Like, I don't, after 6 months, 5 months. So I got a different job. I lined that up before I left for Africa. And so, yeah, it's just a bit of, I'm thinking of the 28 night trip because I can do that. If I have a job down the road, which I hope I do, and I do technically have jobs. I am working. Let's rephrase this. If I have income down the road, there we go. That's the right phrasing. If I have income down the road, and that might be tied with people who have expectations about sick days or vacation time or something like that, then this is the right time to take this trip, not when I have a job that only gives me 2 weeks of vacation time a year, and then this possibility of a 20-night trip completely goes out the window. So, long story short, I took my budget from my ideal 22-day trip in the lodging budget specifically, and I tried to see if I could get lodging for 28 nights, and it was going to be 21 nights total, but one of those on airplane, so 20 nights originally. And I looked to see if I could make it work for 28 nights, and it was exactly budget. So my budget was $2,268, and I looked up individual places and all the places I would stay, and looked at a range of things, and it literally came out to $2,268. So I made that work, and with $1,400 more, my rental car price went up quite a bit, like $500 to $600, and just the rental cars actually as a whole, even if I went with my previous trip length, the price has increased. And the manual transmission is back down to being the cheapest car, and specifically a Ford Ka or similar. Last time I got a Ford Fiesta, so the cheapest option is different this time. So it looks like I might be doing manual transmission again. If I do manual transmission again, we have a 1968 Ford pickup truck that has no power steering and no power brakes, and that is actually the car that the second car I learned to drive stick shift in. The first one was a 1992 or 1998 Toyota Corolla, and then that was like when I first learned. Burned a lot of rubber, and then smooth driving I learned without power steering and without power brakes on the 1968 Ford pickup truck. Had a couple hours of that, drove Scotland for about over 50 hours on the wrong side not the wrong side of the road, the left side of the road, opposite side of the car compared to America, and stick shift. And I would feel good having some practice on the roads here before I go again. It won't be as hard, hopefully, as last time. It's not my first rodeo. My first rodeo, I got a flat tire the first day. So I have learned from my first rodeo, but I don't want to go down that path again. And then my airfare is looking good. It looks like $666. This trip is approved by God, Mother Nature, and the devil, evidently. And it's $666 if I go with the checked bag option, so it's more expensive than the cheapest option for airfare from Iceland Air, but I would go with that option because it allows me to check a bag, and because I have a travel voucher that's $988.33, I don't then have to pay out of pocket for my checked bag. I can cover it with my travel voucher. They also have a little bit more expensive option that's flexible. I might look into that a little bit. So airfare and rental car are looking good. The rental car goes up a bit. Food would cost more because I'm there for longer. Gas, I would still be hitting the same places, but I might be doing a little, so it's not going to add substantial mileage, but there might be a little bit more mileage. So I bumped that up to $400 from, it was $280 before. I bumped food up to about $1,200. Like the vast majority of the places that I would be staying at actually include breakfast. So I think $1,200 is probably a bit high, because I purposefully, when I was in Scotland, ate big breakfasts, so I didn't have to buy much food for the rest of the day. So that comes out to like, I guess, close to $40 a day. So like $30 to $40 a day. That's a lot when I already get breakfast. So I think that's high, but that's okay. And then emergency expenses and gifts, which emergency expenses I might include miscellaneous, such as like museum entrance fees and stuff like that in this budget, and that's $1,000, and that's much higher than it was before, or not much higher. I think before it was about $600, so it went up $400. I feel great about this budget, honestly. Like, I think it's very realistic, and I think there's actually a good chance that I would be under budget. And so this adjusted budget for a longer 29-day 28-night trip in Ireland is $7,056.33. So rounding that is $7,200, with approximately $6,100 left to cover because I've already paid $988.33 for the airfare. So that's actually, like, with the stimulus check, I could actually make this work. So I am like, whoo, I think the biggest thing for me is I need to have reached stability in my boxing training and weight reduction, and I need to be physically fit enough and healthy enough to go. So this is one where matter over mind is kind of the maxim, not mind over matter. for me, 99% of the time in life, matter over mind is actually the maxim that is more truthful in my life. Mind over matter tends to end in bad things, and not like bad things like I stubbed a toe, but like bad things where I don't pay attention to that I'm sick or sleep deprived, and then I hit my head. I go to brush my teeth in the bathroom, fall backwards, hit my head on tile, crack my skull, and get amnesia. And then I lose the memory of my sister along with other loved ones, so my significant others. Like, I suppose I should bring this up because I've remembered now that I am married. I have multiple husbands. It's not atypical for Norwegian culture. I am a quarter Norwegian. My husband's took my last name. So my name is Tanis Leonardi. Leonardi is my surname. It's my family name. And my husband's actually took my last name. I know some people might not react well to that. We got married in June 2012, so I've been married to my husband's for over 8 years now. And so that just, the emotional toll of that, and like forgetting like family and loved ones, for my soulmates, like there's just, the recovery is ongoing. And so I think I really need to, with this one, put matter over mind and just push through it. And I'll know pretty quickly whether, or not pretty quickly, but if tax day is in April this year, I'll know kind of by the end of April whether or not I'll get that additional stimulus money. And if I do get that additional stimulus money, I might actually be able to make this longer trip a reality, which is like really, it's a reason to do my taxes and file and stuff, even with no income. So if you're in the same boat as me, it might be worthwhile to file taxes anyway. So yeah, that's kind of my update. I guess related to that, I file taxes separately. Like as a single person, I have to pay more taxes that way than if I say I'm married and that kind of thing. So that's why the multiple husbands thing hasn't been a problem in the United States of America. Just we pay higher taxes instead of kind of getting lower tax rate, but because of being married. So yeah, my husbands have been so sweet in helping me recover from my amnesia and stuff. And so yeah, this is still gonna be a solo trip though. In terms of like living together and stuff like that, because I don't live with them now, that's a ongoing. I don't have my full memory back, and my husbands are very sweet and they want to surprise me and stuff, and we have a house in Norway, and so they just kind of want everything to be perfect. So if it's a decade from now before we move, okay. If it doesn't happen before we die, well then we get heaven and or hell together, kind of thing. So yeah, sorry, this is like a hard topic for me to talk about. Anyway, Ireland, a longer term version trip might be a go, and so I'm very excited about that. So yeah, happy Wednesday.